how to communicate, how to actually see what they are saying to you, how to redline the barrage, the thesis that you receive every time and decipher what is it that they're actually saying and do I actually need to respond?
Welcome to another episode of Negotiate Your Best Life. I am beyond excited to have Mia Madafferi here with me today. She is a powerhouse. She is a powerhouse. She is a seasoned lawyer, and she is also the first person in Australia to be certified in my high conflict negotiation certification course. She is a master SLAY certified coach and also just a beautiful badass. I mean, seriously, look at her. But I cannot wait to dive in because you are going to just be blown away by how much she knows, what she does. She's now the founder of Grey Rock Consulting. She completely specializes in helping people communicate and negotiate with narcissistic and high conflict personalities. She is completely dedicating her life to helping people reclaim their lives from control and abuse and providing them with the tools to communicate effectively and negotiate confidently. She has dealt with narcissists in all different forms, in all different realms in her own life. And she now really is helping people in all different ways. So I'm so excited to have you here, Mia.
Oh my goodness. Do you know, Rebecca, I'm never lost for words, but I'm lost for words. That is one of the most kindest introductions. So thank you so much. And I could not be more excited to be here speaking to you today, Rebecca, honestly.
Yeah, well, it is my honor and my pleasure because you've been so really, I love to see the way that your light has shown, especially throughout the program. And then even after the program, you've been on podcasts all over the place and really taking your program and in your own um, career and turning it into something incredible all over Australia. And I can't wait to go there and join forces with you. I mean, it's just been incredible to watch. But it is really such a testament to what you can do when you turn your pain into power.
Yes, it's funny. Someone sent me a quote the other day, and it really resonated. And it was the pain pushes until the vision pulls. And I was like, wow, that is so true. I look back on my journey and think the pain could have done one of two things, which was completely break me, or the opposite, and I turn it into my vision and my power. And without sounding too full of myself, I feel that that is what I have done. I've worked really, really, really hard from what was incredibly difficult experiences to be where I am today. If someone had said to me, you would be speaking to Rebecca Zung herself in real life, I would have laughed and said, in my dreams. And here's my dream coming true. So it's great.
Oh, I remember when we first spoke, you said I had this vision that you and I would be speaking on stages together. Yeah. I,
For a long time, I felt that, and we know it's happening. Whether you're coming to Australia or I'm coming over there, but it's definitely going to happen. That's for sure.
I can't wait till it happens. We're going to manifest that. But there's another quote out there that's you are best served to help the person that you used to be.
Oh,
Yeah.
unbelievable. These things they resonate so deeply because I absolutely admire anyone in this space who is working to help people, at the end of the day, be free because you can feel so consumed by these personalities, and that is what they do to you. And I think ultimately these tools and the strategies and the advice is to for you to get your freedom back. And I
Mhm.
think you are best served when you are working with someone who actually knows what it is like, who's actually experienced these personalities.
Totally. I mean, just totally. And it really is just this slow boil. I mean, I remember when I was dealing with it, and you just think eh, you just you know that you're this strong person, and you know that you have value in all of the things, but then all of a sudden you realize you're in this thing and you think, how did I end up here? Where did
Yes,
like, where did I make this wrong turn?
yes,
And 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 you just don't even realize how you got there, other than you just think, well, I was trying to be a good person, or it's not like you didn't see signs along the way, but you end up thinking, well, there were just like these small little things along the way. And along the way, you kind of think, well, I thought that the person was going to change, or I thought that the person was um you know that there was something going on in their lives, and so I was helping them, or I thought that I just interviewed Nadine Macaluso, who wrote
unbelievable.
Run Like Hell, and she was married to the Wolf of Wall Street. And she said something to me that it almost gave me a chill down to my bones, but it was also so powerful. And
Mhm.
she said, they keep you alive on hope.
Oh, I just got chills because as you were speaking, I was, in my mind, I was like, hope in everyday life is a beautiful thing. Hope in these situations is a killer. The hope that they will change, the hope that they will see what they're doing, the hope that they'll realize that you're only there, with the best intentions for them. Hope, hope, hope. And it is an absolute killer. I absolutely know what it's like to hope that things will be different, and they're not. And I think, what you touched on before is so important. I reflect and say, hold on a minute, I'm educated, I'm a lawyer, I specialize in sort of major infrastructure litigation in my legal career, which you can only imagine the personalities in that space. And I think, hold on a minute, this couldn't happen to someone like me. No, it shouldn't happen to me because I'm smart and I'm successful and all the things. I had a good upbringing, and then when it all, that we say over here, like when it comes to roost, when the chickens come to roost, when you start to realize and see, they're not picking you because there's something wrong with you. They're not picking you because you're uneducated or anything like that. They're picking you because there's so much right about you. And you reflect so wonderfully on them or for them. And this process of sort of detangling all the tentacles, pulling out this entrenched weed, which has so many roots in you. Oh, it's a journey and it's not easy, but you start to see how they have really gotten into your system and changed the way you think and changed the way you see yourself. It's insidious to say the absolute least.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then they manage, after all of that, to, when you want to stop providing all of the services or whatever it is to them, to turn people against you
Oh,
because you don't want to continue to do that
no,
anymore.
and they're so, it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. They are so covert, most of them, the way they do it. If I was to go to your, a family member today and say, oh, Rebecca Zung, she's a murderer. Your family would go, who are you, you absolute lunatic? Rebecca is not a murderer. They don't do it like that. They're not that obvious, and they plant little seeds of
Oh,
doubt
yeah.
and manipulation, and they water them and they grow to people going, oh, actually, yes, no, I was told that Rebecca is capable of that. And people, that's how they get in people's minds. It's just unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, the way I explain it to people is like what they'll do is they'll start like months before and they'll say they, they mask it in terms of care. Like I call the coverts the pearl grabbers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm just so concerned about Susie and her drinking.
Yes. So worried.
I'm just so concerned. I'm so worried about her. Oh,
Yep. And the children, and she's not quite herself, and
oh no, I'm just worried.
worried.
Uh, I mean, I'm just worried about her being around the kids. I mean, I don't know. I mean, all that extra stress that she's had lately. I, and then they plant these little seeds. And then by the time the divorce comes around, of course, Susie's a full-on alcoholic.
Yes.
But Susie probably has no problem with drinking whatsoever.
Yeah. I find that we are always looking at the reactions and not the behavior that is causing the reaction. So, like you say, like, oh, yes, Susie's an alcoholic. Well, hold on a minute. Susie wasn't an alcoholic for a big part of her life. And now she seems to be, like abusing alcohol. Why? Why? No one's looking at that, and they look at oh gosh, he was right. Susie's an alcoholic.
Yeah. Well, and Susie
Well,
is probably not even an alcoholic.
yes, yeah.
Susie probably just had an extra glass of wine on Saturday. And so, he characterized it as Susie's an alcoholic now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and because they saw her drink that extra glass of wine, well, now it's easy to, oh, well, I did see her drink more, you know.
Yes, yes. Or even if Susie is, you're at a function or you're all catching up and Susie has her glass of wine, which is completely fine. And then, even little things like, say she walks off and she's coming back and she stumbles or trips on, some uneven pavement. And then it will be like, see,
Oh, I told
see,
you.
see.
Mm.
Yes. And,
Yeah.
I'm conscious I'm saying all of this with a smile on my face. And it's not because it makes me happy or because it's a, happy situation to be in, but it's because when you see them and how they function and how they operate, and once you are free of it, the smile on my face is because you just see what they are up to. And hopefully that people are seeing this and going, oh, I can be free too. I can get to a point where I'm smiling and laughing at the ridiculous things that they're doing because I've taken my power back completely in this situation.
Yes, totally. Totally. Yeah. So I want to just say, you and I have both been there. And I mean, I know it's so interesting though, because I think what happens is, and I'm going to say this because I want to do some kind of like a special or something like me, I've done YouTube videos on this for sure, but all narcissists end up self-destructing. Um, and they do end up overplaying their hand. Because at some point, everybody who's with them in some way ends up going, I
Yeah.
see who you are now.
Yes, I've seen that over and over and over again. And it's really so difficult when you're in it because, I have so many clients as well, and I've been in it where you want to scream to friends, family, whoever it might be, saying, can't you see what they're doing? And what actually happens is you almost play into their narrative when you do that. And people start going, oh my gosh, like, she's like a dog with a bone about this. And yeah, he can be a bit full on, but he's not that bad. And you end up kind of looking like you're a bit obsessed or a bit crazy about it all. What actually happens over time, if you look after you and you focus on you, you know what happens. You don't need to justify or explain yourself to anybody. And you focus on being free and getting out with however that looks for you. You watch over time the friends, the new partner, all the things, and people start to go, oh my gosh, he or she, is doing all these things and they're driving us crazy and they won't let go. And you just sit back and you're like, yep, because the mask always comes down. Always.
Always. They
Always.
always end up destroying themselves or whatever. I mean, there's just always something that you can use against them. And
Always.
yes, always. And so, and there's just always some point where their supply source just goes, I'm just done over here. I mean, there's just, and that's when they will come unglued or undone, and there's always going to be something you can use against them.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't make it any easier. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so, and you can use that my slay method, which is what you teach. Now, I want you to talk about you have um a method that you're now helping people with the day to day. Um,
Yes.
and I think that this is really, really helpful because I can say that as a lawyer, and you know this as a lawyer too,
Yes.
the one of the worst things for people is dealing with the day to day. And you know that you can't help hold people's hands on a day-to-day basis. I
Yes.
mean, this is what would happen with me, and I am sure you can probably attest to this too as a lawyer. Like the first month, the bill would be like big, and then people would go, "Oh, wait a minute, why'd you bill me all this?" Well, you're calling me and texting me all the time, and then the next month, not so much. But it's really hard for people because they're like, oh my gosh, this is going crazy. So, and I used to tell my paralegal, like, oh my gosh, if the motion came in on a Friday or the letter came in on a Friday, this is what narcissists always do, by the way. They
Mm-hmm.
always send things over at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon
Mm-hmm.
or 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon.
Yes, or the night before a special event or your birthday or something like that. They really love that sort of stuff.
Well, I'm talking about as a lawyer, it'll come into the lawyer's office,
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
you have to send it over to your client,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have all weekend that they have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're like in this whole massive meltdown mode,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what they do. They file a motion or some big, huge craziness. And now they're in, oh my gosh, what do I do? I don't even know what this is. Da, 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 da. And so I used to tell my paralegal, please don't just send it over. Send it over with like explaining what it is so that they're not in like full on panic mode. So, but that's what they do.
That's what they do. And, I personally noticed a real gap there because you're so right. When you are in it, your family lawyer is also not your counselor. You don't want your family lawyer also doing your day to day correspondence because it will cost you an absolute fortune. I don't know about you over there, but in Australia, family lawyers are busy on another scale. It's
Totally.
just incredibly busy. So this is not their job, and they are already so busy. So that gap was the day to day. So you will have your family lawyer or wonderful programs, including Slay, which is exceptional. Around negotiating with them and getting the successful outcome that you want. These things are critical, and I would say life-saving to people, so they can get out of it and get out of it with something that they're actually happy with instead of being bullied. So I think they are just so phenomenal and so important. And then the gap was day to day, you know, the constant emails or text messages or, you know, whatever your form of communication is. And I hope it's just one where it's, you know, the school that they go to, or, you know, I don't have their sport uniform, or you haven't paid a bill or something like that. It is the day to day where they sort of, you know, leech on and they cause you so much grief over something that should not be a problem. And what I experienced was, you know, well, who's going to help me with these responses? I don't know what to say, because when you are explaining, defending, justifying, I never said that, I didn't do that, what do you mean? You end up in this, you know, this merry-go-round that doesn't stop. And they keep coming back. And before you know it, your day's gone. And you're, you know, really upset about something. You're not able to do your job, or whatever it might be. So that day to day where I felt people are by themselves, and it's so important for them to be free of this as well, because you can be free of it. And I'm sure there's people listening going, oh, but I have to co-parent and we do have to communicate. Yes, I know, but there is a way to bring that all down. I was going to say a couple of notches, but like, you know, a million notches when you're dealing with a narcissist, where they're not getting that supply from you anymore, because it is all supply, all supply.
Oh,
So
yeah, they're
that's where I
addicted to
really
it.
focus.
They're addicted to it.
Addicted.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the narcissists are addicts, basically, is what they are.
Mhm. And this is the stuff, you know, this will never be used in your court proceedings. Well, maybe now, you know, I'm not sure if you know, but over here we've just criminalised coercive control in New South Wales, which is a wonderful step, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But this day-to-day stuff, you don't want to be paying your family lawyer to do it. They don't want to do it because it's really not relevant to your proceeding, but you do want to be free of it. And there is a way to be free of it and to bring it right down. But it's hard to do by yourself. And that is what I really, really love as well, to help people through.
So, I mean, I think this is a wonderful, wonderful service. So, what do you do?
So I've got my sort of my method to get them through and the steps. And, you know, Rebecca, you will not be shocked to hear that one of the first steps is know who you're dealing with. Know who you are dealing with. And it's so important to really understand who they are, how they react, know your opponent. You know, sometimes people feel in this space when you refer to strategy or knowing your opponent that it sounds underhanded or manipulative, or but it's really not. You know, I think as a lawyer, you always have a strategy, and you know your opponent and you know their case inside and out. You really need that in this space as well, because you're not dealing with someone who is reasonable. You're not dealing with someone who wants to work with you. You know, and if you have children, you're definitely not working with someone who is working in the best interests of your children. So you're starting with knowing your opponent, and then I take them through different steps around how to communicate, how to actually see what they are saying to you, how to redline the barrage, you know, the thesis that you receive every time, and decipher what is it that they're actually saying, and do I actually need to respond? Then it's more around responding, not reacting. Never respond straight away. You know, if you're in a place where you're angry or upset, you know, working through and becoming an expert in responding and not reacting. And then what you're actually going to say, your grey rock response, you know, and it is a process and it takes time. But one of the biggest, I had a client yesterday and I got off the call with her and I was just so happy, because the very first time I met her, she was in her car on her phone, terrified that he might walk out, hear her, see her, know that she's on a call with me, and so scared. And every time she mentioned what was happening, she was in tears and she didn't know what to do. And when I spoke to her yesterday, she's like, I'm about to go on my second trip overseas with my friend. And she was smiling and laughing. And I was like, yes, yes, like it fills my heart so much. And I'm like, my ultimate is the day comes where you don't ever need to speak to me again, in the nicest possible way, that you don't need me anymore because you're free and you've got it and off you go. I love it. Love it.
Oh, yeah. Love it. Love it. I mean, that's how I feel too. Like, to me, like seeing people shine and become powerful, that's like the best. It's
Yes.
so I mean, I always say never jade. I always say I'm half Chinese, but I always wear jade, but never jade, never justify, argue, defend, or explain, because you're never going to talk them into something. You're never going to get closure. You're never going to get them to acknowledge you. You're never going to get them. I mean, if they ever even apologize, I mean, my experience is if they, even the apologies are really just a manipulation.
There's a motivation behind the apology. There is something there, and it's either to make themselves look good for some reason. It is because they need something from you. I've had situations where you will receive the most horrible correspondence, and then the next day, because they need something, it'll be like, I've made a mistake. I've made a booking for something, and I've just realized that, you have the kids that day. And I'm so sorry. I know that I'm putting you out, but would it be possible? And you're like, whoa, Jekyll and Hyde, Jekyll and Hyde. It's unbelievable.
Totally, totally. Or, it wasn't my intention. It wasn't my intention to hurt you, or it wasn't my intention to do something. That's one of my favorites.
Yes,
Because that's not an apology, by the way.
no,
Um,
yes. And a lot of you being a bit sensitive or don't overreact and, all those sorts of things. It's like a playbook.
yes, exactly, exactly. So, um, and if they do it again, then that's not, you can just tell that there's that too, right?
Yes. Yeah, I was told very early on in my life, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And, you hear those things. And the other, my dad always used to say to me when I was little, there's a fine line between love and hate. And those sorts of things, you're like, what that means. What are you talking about? And then you go through these experiences and you're like, yes, okay, I see it. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time, not the 100th time, not, like when they are showing you, because these personalities show you. And I think if you ask everyone who's navigated one to look back and go, were there warning signs? Were there red flags? Everyone will say yes, absolutely there were. But we justify, like you say, we often say, oh, but, she had a hard upbringing, or his mother was really hard on him, so sometimes he can lash out, or, he didn't get the job that he really wanted, so she's a bit angry right now. And we make all these excuses. And
Yeah,
it's like,
so totally.
no,
So,
no,
I mean, and the biggest thing, is that they never follow through on the promises that they make. When they say that they're going to change, when they say that they're going to do something that's going to make things better or whatever, they say whatever they want to keep you alive, to keep you breadcrumbing, to keep you in it just enough to keep you tethered. And then they
yes,
might change, or do the things for a month or two, or
yes.
whatever it is, but they never actually really follow through, and they
No,
never
that's
keep
so
their
right.
promises.
Never, and unless it serves a purpose for them, unless it helps them in some way, shape, or form, they absolutely do not. And I think one of the most painful things for people in these situations, because we all know you can experience them, at work, in relationships, family members, they're everywhere. And one of the most painful experiences when it is a relationship, because you are emotionally invested and you love this person, or you did love this person, and there's so much pain in seeing who they are. It's so painful. And then there's grief because you realize this person was not who I thought they were. And that is not an easy path or an easy journey. But, where I feel so passionately, I have so many clients say, what do you mean I've got leverage? What do you mean I've got the power? I've got no power. It always feels like he's running the show. It always feels like she's holding all the cards. And when you start talking to them, and I had one recently where they went to mediation, and my client said to me, we got nowhere today. I said, okay, well, tell me what happened in the mediation. And she explained it all. And I said, you got everywhere. She's like, what do you mean? I said, you didn't get an agreement? Yes. But He's just revealed what he really wants is A, B, C. He has revealed what he will fight tooth and nail for you not to get. And he's cut his own nose to spite his face because he really needs money. But in order to upset you, he won't agree to an interim payout. So you have all this information. You have all the power. You have all the leverage. He needs money. And she's like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. I said, you have all the power. So now she's going into another mediation with this solid strategy and plan, and she knows her work. I said, you know what? It's not a loss. You knew your walk away points and you walked away. It wasn't a loss. And she was like, oh, wow, that's a really different way to see it. And I was like, your mindset is critical, absolutely critical in all of these things, because
Yeah,
they really do have the power. They really do.
yes, totally. That was really good advice and really a good reframe. Yes.
Reframe.
Yes. And, and I always say that with when they don't show up on time or when they don't make a payment on time or when they're constantly changing the schedule, I always say, thank you for the gift. Thank you for the gift, because that
Yes.
becomes leverage. That
I think
becomes
that's
leverage.
wonderful, Rebecca. Thank you for the gift, because, mindset really is critical. If you walk into a negotiation with, this is just a waste, I'm not going to get anywhere because he's this way, well, what's the point of going to the negotiation? So you have to, I really, I often laugh with my clients. I'm like, I'm sorry to be bossy, but you've got to listen to me on this stuff, which is terrible. But I'm like, that mindset of going in powerful, knowing that if you don't reach an agreement, it's because it was going to a point that you were not comfortable with, instead of getting bullied into something, and really believing that you can do this and that you can get the outcome that you want. Might not happen the first time, might happen the second time. That reframe. Thank you for the gift. I love that. I think it's so important.
Yes, totally. But I had one of my um coaches actually tell the ex the other day, thank you for the gift. I'm like, no, you're not supposed to tell them that.
I need to believe you.
It's for you to know.
Oh, that is so funny. But you're so right. They must know that it is all a gift. I think,
Yeah,
someone
it's for
said
you
to
to
me,
say to yourself, not to tell them.
not to tell them, right? As someone said to me, I would have been a couple of years ago, everything is happening for you and not to you.
Yes.
And when you're in the thick of these situations, something like that can actually be upsetting for somebody, because they'd be, what do you mean that this is happening for me? I'm being controlled. I'm being emotionally and psychologically abused. I'm not, that withholding finances. What do you mean this is happening for me? And in that journey, you get to a point where you see it and you see how this is happening for you. I look at where I am now, and it's like, oh wow, I see how this happened for me and not to me. It's really powerful stuff.
Yeah. I mean, look what all that I'm doing now, right? And you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So, where can people learn more about you and what you're up to and what you're doing?
Yes.
And is there anything more that you want to share about your programs and what you're up to?
Yeah, so I'm a little busy bee over here working away. It's funny actually, because I've ended up having clients from all over the world, which I didn't envisage either. So that has just been incredible, to have, people from, Canada and America and Argentina, like all these places where I was like,
So excited for you.
wow, this is unbelievable. So I am very busy working away over here. So at the minute I work one-on-one with clients. I actually had a client in Canada go, the exchange rate is working wonderfully for me working with you. I was like, yes, okay, good. Well done for you. So we had a bit of a chuckle about that. But I do work one-on-one coaching for, the negotiations and the mediations and those big events. But also, like I said to you, the day-to-day, I had a client who was going through so much grief trying to get agreement on the high school that their second child would go to, because you can imagine, the ex-wife was pushing for a different school to what the older sibling was going to, and he was pulling his hair out. And we got there, we got agreement, and we got to the same school as the older sibling, which is the right outcome. And it's so wonderful because he was like, I just didn't think this would happen. And I would never have approached it the way that we ended up doing it. I was like, yay, I'm so happy for you. So I do a lot of one-on-one, which is so fulfilling. And what I am working on in the background now is something that everyone can access, you know, at their leisure, on their own time, on demand, where it is the day-to-day, how to be free of the day-to-day grind where you feel so alone and you feel that there's no one you can really reach out to help you with all these things where they are coming at you all the time. So I am very busy working away on that. I'm very excited about it.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
more to come on that. So we'll have to have you back when that comes out.
Yes, absolutely. And in the meantime, if anyone wants to know anything more, jump on Instagram, Grey Rock Consulting, one word, and you'll find me there. So always sharing a lot of your tips and tricks too, Rebecca.
Yes, loving it, loving it. So you are just such a powerhouse and such a bright, shining light. And I always love talking to you, and I always love seeing everything that you're up to. So make sure you go follow her, check her out, check out her stuff. And she's just amazing. So thank you, Mia. Thank you for coming here and sharing your pearls of wisdom with us and with the world.
Thank you so much. It's honestly an absolute privilege. And in all honesty, thank you for all that you do because you change lives. So thank you.
Thank you. Shopify helps millions sell billions around the world through their digital courses, through their digital products at the touch of a button on their smartphones, on social media, however they want, including me. At shop.rebeccazung.com, you can access your store from all over the world, just the touch of a button from your smartphones. Start accepting payments. Everything you need to sell online, manage orders, and develop relationships in one place and look fabulous doing it. Shopify is the commerce platform that is revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide, including my own, at shop.rebeccazung.com. So right now, what you need to do is sign up for a $1 a month trial period at shopify.com/bestlife, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/bestlife to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/bestlife.